Regardless of any perceived meta value, the Dendro archetypes have always been quite interesting additions to Genshin Impact back when they first came out in Sumeru. That is, except of course one of them, Burning. But with the arrival of the Hexenzirkel buffs, mainly Mona's, and the release of Durin, it feels to me like the Burning archetype actually seems to be so much better to play these days. So today I wanted to explain how Burning teams went from meh to wow, amazing, I really want to play this. Now if you're a Kinich main, you're probably already thinking, hold up, wait, Burning has already been feeling great since the start of Natlan, what are you talking about? Obviously that is true for the Kinich mains, but for the rest of us who don't have him, we're now finally, I feel like, at a time where this archetype can be enjoyed to its fullest. If you're having a burning passion to try something like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Back when Dendro just came out, there was a variety of hilarious issues that came with playing Burning teams. Number one, the burning damage itself wasn't all that strong. Number two, the Dendro characters available weren't all that conducive to burning damage. We had characters like Dignari, who was more of an EM scaler than an attack scaler, especially with Hunter's Path. Colle's strength lied more in having solid upfront Dendro application, which is wasted in burning teams. DMC's lamp outright exploded if it made contact with Pyro before anything else. Nahida and Alhaitham are actually EM scalers. Kaveh had mechanics tied to blooms. Pretty much all the Pyro characters didn't care either. Most of them preferred Melt or Vape. Otherwise, Overload with Chevrus would later become a powerful alternative. We also take significant damage if we got close to burning enemies, especially if there were multiple burning enemies near us. Especially if multiple burning enemies were grouped near us by a high EM scaler like, let's say, I don't know, Kazuha. Cut to Natlan. The burning damage itself still isn't all that strong, but we at least now have two Dendro characters who are very good in these kinds of teams. We've got Kinich, who uses burning damage to get more Night Soul points, and we have Emilie, who uses Sense from burning enemies to make her lamp do significantly more damage. She also reduces the damage taken from getting too close to burning enemies, so that of course fixes that aforementioned Kazuha issue. So burning teams ended up being more of a brute force team, kind of like Geo and Animo teams. But to that end, at the time, we found ourselves in a position where there wasn't that much support available for these kinds of teams. We had Ian-san and Bennett as obvious attack buff options. For Red Shred, either someone random would have to use Deepwood, or someone like Emilie would end up using Deepwood instead of her signature DPS set, the Unfinished Reverie. There was a lesser used, I think, option of Zhongli, as he famously had 20% Omni Shred. Damage percent options usually fell to Farina, which may have been an issue in that Salon Solitaire could end up removing burning from enemies. This was more of a problem for Emilie than Kinich. It's now nearly the end of 2025, and here's why burning teams seem to feel so much better to play now with the Hexenzirkel buffs and of course the release of Durin. Claire, Albedo, and to a very lesser extent, Sucrose received buffs that could make them feel better in these teams. The main thing about the Sucrose buff is that you could try to maximize burning damage itself through her, at least in a Hexerai team. Visual buffs mean triggering overloads with her on the team can give everyone a plus 45% attack buff, so that's of course pretty nice. But the main one is, I think, still the Mona buffs, because you got that Omen duration, which means more time where the team gets plus 60% damage buffs, and with C4 everyone gets plus 15% crit rate, and your Hexerai characters also get 15% crit damage. You can set up a rotation where Mona's Hydro app barely exists, which of course results in less downtime for burning when that matters, thus making Mona, in my opinion, quite possibly, maybe, the best burning team support in the game. That is if we were to be playing burning teams with the other really nice introduction in the game, which is of course Durin, with plus 35% Red Shred in a Hexerai team with Mona, etc, etc. This also means we don't really need to use Deepwood on Emilie anymore. I have actually tried Deepwood and Reverie on Emilie, very similar amounts of damage. Consistent off-field pyro damage and application means we can actually maintain burning auras a lot more easily for Emilie. On top of that, since Natlan's release, there has been a pretty notable push by Hoyo to release a bunch of enemies and bosses that seem to favor the mechanics that burning can provide. In particular, one thing that's overlooked is that burning gives you a lot of pyro hits. Even though those pyro hits are not necessarily giving you a lot of pyro damage, nor are they necessarily giving you all that much pyro app, they are in fact still a lot of elemental hits, particularly of the pyro variety. But thanks to these mechanics, eroding avatars of lava automatically die if they get hit with enough hits of pyro. They also take a chunk of their HP as damage at certain intervals. The lava dragon and infinitesimal need to be fed as many hits of pyro as you can in order to go through its various stages. Breaking the abyss tree and other abyss mimic shields require a lot of elemental hits and hits from Night Soul aligned damage. Burning ends up being the fastest available way outside of someone like Autoron. Land Rover needs to be fed pyro hits in order to get into its overheating mode, and of course pyro hits will then need to be used to, generally speaking, break the subsequent cryo shield. Burning won't exist with the shield active though, but it can quickly bring out the overheating state at least. This is precisely why I went out of my way to get Emilie, because we are starting to see some content that really favored having a burning reaction available in your team for those fast ticks of pyro. But at the end of the day, there wasn't really anyone who could take advantage of the fact that this was in fact a burning team. There's been two team variations that I've enjoyed the most so far. There's Venti Air Fryer with either Bennett or Faruzan, it really just depends on my mood. It seems like in this current Spiral Abyss, C6 Faruzan results in slightly faster, if not very similar clear times. May have something to do with the team attack percent buff from Tenacity versus Bennett's single target attack buff. What's really cool about Venti is that his ult can group enemies close enough that Emilie's lamp ends up doing AoE damage, in particular her ult, which doesn't really have to choose targets anymore in this scenario, so I really like how this team has worked out. And the other team is not burgeoned with the higher. This is of course with Medic Mona. If you're feeling particularly finicky, you could of course try and play it with DPS Mona. It does work, I suppose. I found that DPS Durin and Support Durin seem to do very similar damage. Support Durin, of course, results in everyone doing significantly more damage though. I have noticed as well very similar damage hits with swapping Mona with Bennett in this team. I get the feeling that losing Hexarray and therefore only have 20% red shred from Durin is actually playing a pretty huge role as well. On top of that, Emilie can't snapshot buffs either, so if you have C4 Mona and you therefore get the crit rate buff, I think she's actually stronger than Bennett in this team. At the end of the day, burning teams are probably still not all that meta in the game. However, I would say that thanks to the Hexenzirkel buffs and of course the release of Durin, they do feel like they have some real support now, so they do feel like they're in a much better position than they have ever been. So the characters that make real use of it, someone like Emilie, can now be, I think, pretty strong at the present moment. And that's before we consider the vape and melt reaction teams that actually use burning as a way of maintaining a pyro aura. So characters like Morlani can use this as well. But either way, you know, having that Dendro there to prevent Hydro from overtaking and causing a Hydro aura as well, that is one of the other things that burning can do, but that is obviously something that I didn't really speak on in this video. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Are you playing burning teams a lot more often than before? Let me know in the comments, because I just feel like, you know, it's just something different that you can just play. It's not, like I said, it's not the best kind of team archetype in the game, but it's just something you can enjoy anyway. Who cares? Whatever it is, what it is. Alright, anyway, hope you guys enjoy this. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.